Ever stood in front of a leaky faucet or a toilet that won't stop running and thought, there's no way I can fix that myself? You're not alone, and I'll tell you, most of the time you're dead wrong about that. After 3 decades in the trade, I've watched homeowners hand over hundreds of dollars for jobs that take 15 minutes and a couple of basic tools. Today, I'm walking you through 10 DIY plumbing jobs that are way easier than you think, including one at number 9 that most people have never even heard of. And stick around for the bonus tip at the end. The first job on our list, and one of the most common reasons people call a plumber, is replacing a kitchen or bathroom faucet. Now listen, I understand why this one feels intimidating. You look under that sink and you see supply lines, nuts, maybe some corrosion, and you think this is a job for a professional. But here's the thing. 90% of faucet replacements are just disconnecting a few connections, lifting the old one out and dropping the new one in. The hardest part is, honestly, just getting comfortable on your back under the cabinet. If you've got bad knees like me, throw a folded towel down there and take your time. The tool you need most is a basin wrench, which is that long-handled wrench with a swiveling jaw on the end that lets you reach up behind the sink where your hands can't fit. You can pick one up at any hardware store for around $15, and you'll use it for years. Start by turning off the hot and cold shut-off valves under the sink. Then disconnect the supply lines. Have a small bucket and a towel underneath because there's always a little water left in the lines. Remove the mounting nuts, holding the old faucet down. Lift it out, clean the surface, and then follow the instructions that come with your new faucet. Most modern faucets come with their own supply lines and mounting hardware already attached. So you're really just snugging things down and hooking up 2 water lines. Turn the water back on slowly, check for leaks, and you're done. The whole job takes about 45 minutes to an hour, and you just saved yourself anywhere from $200 to $400. The second job that's way simpler than people realize is fixing a running toilet. This is one that drives people crazy. That constant hissing or trickling sound, water bill creeping up month after month, and most folks just learn to live with it or call somebody. But a running toilet is almost always caused by one of 2 parts. Either the flapper at the bottom of the tank isn't sealing properly, or the fill valve is worn out and not shutting off when it should. You can diagnose it yourself in about 30 seconds. Take the tank lid off and flush. Watch what happens. If water keeps flowing down through the bottom after the flapper closes, that flapper is warped or has buildup on it and needs replacing. If the water keeps rising and starts flowing into the overflow tube, your fill valve isn't shutting off. Either way, the parts cost between $5 and $12, and the fix takes less time than it took you to drive to the hardware store. I've seen this 1,000 times, and I promise you, if you can flush a toilet, you can fix one. The third job on our list is clearing a clogged drain without chemicals, and I cannot stress this one enough. Please stop pouring chemical drain cleaners down your pipes. I know the bottles make it look easy, but those chemicals eat away at your pipes over time, especially if you've got older cast iron or even PVC that's been in there for decades. The right way to clear a clog is mechanical. Start with a good plunger, and I mean a real one, not that flat little cup plunger people keep next to the toilet. For sinks, you want a cup plunger. For toilets, you want a flange plunger with that extra rubber lip that folds out and seals into the drain opening. Fill the sink or bowl with enough water to cover the plunger cup, then give it firm, steady pumps. You're not trying to shove the clog down, you're creating pressure to break it loose. If the plunger doesn't do it, step up to a hand-crank drain snake, sometimes called a drum auger. You feed the cable into the drain, crank it forward until you hit resistance, and then work it back and forth to break through the blockage. Pull it out slowly because it's going to be messy. Keep that bucket handy. Between a plunger and a $25 drain snake, you can handle 90% of household clogs yourself. No chemicals needed. By the way, if you're finding this advice helpful, do me a small favor and hit that subscribe button down below. I put out new videos like this one every week, walking you through repairs that'll save you a small fortune in plumber bills. Subscribing is free, and it's the best way to make sure you don't miss the next one. All right, let's continue. The fourth job that belongs on every homeowner's confidence list is replacing a toilet fill valve or flapper. Now, I touched on diagnosing these parts a minute ago, but let me walk you through the actual replacement because people assume it's more involved than it really is. For a flapper, you just shut off the water, flush the toilet to drain the tank, unhook the old flapper from the two pegs on the overflow tube, disconnect the chain from the flush handle lever, and snap the new one on. The whole thing takes maybe 5 minutes. For a fill valve, it's only slightly more involved. Shut off the water, flush and sponge out whatever's left in the tank, disconnect the supply line from the bottom of the tank, unscrew the locking nut underneath, and pull the old valve straight up and out. Drop the new one in, adjust the height so it sits about an inch below the top of the overflow tube. Tighten the locking nut from below, reconnect the supply line, and turn the water back on. Most universal fill valves like the Fluidmaster 400 come with clear instructions right in the box. Between you and me, this is one of those jobs where you'll finish and think, I can't believe I almost called somebody for this. The fifth job, and honestly one of the easiest on this entire list, is installing a new shower head. If you've never done any plumbing work before, this is the one to start with. It takes about 10 minutes, and the only tools you need are a pair of channel locks, which are those adjustable pliers with the angled jaw, and a roll of Teflon tape, which is that thin white tape you wrap around pipe threads to create a watertight seal. Unscrew the old shower head by turning it counterclockwise. If it's stubborn, wrap a rag around the fitting and use the channel locks for leverage. Once it's off, clean the threads on the shower arm, that's the pipe sticking out of the wall. Wrap fresh Teflon tape around those threads, about 4 or 5 wraps going clockwise so it doesn't unravel when you screw the new head on. Hand tighten the new shower head, then give it just a quarter turn more with the channel locks. Turn the water on and check for drips around the connection. That's it. You just upgraded your shower for the cost of the new head and 5 minutes of your time. The sixth job that's easier than most people think is replacing supply lines, whether it's the ones going to your faucet or your toilet. These are the flexible braided lines that connect your shut-off valves to the fixture. Over time, they can corrode, develop small leaks, or just get old and stiff. And here's the thing, a supply line failure is one of the top causes of major water damage in homes. I've walked into basements with 2 inches of standing water because a 20-year-old supply line finally gave out while the homeowners were on vacation. Replacing them is dead simple. Shut off the water at the valve, put your bucket underneath, disconnect the old line from both ends using an adjustable wrench, and thread the new one on. Braided stainless steel supply lines are the ones you want. They're flexible, durable, and they come in standard lengths that fit most setups. Tighten them hand-tight first, then about a quarter turn with the wrench. Turn the water on slowly and watch the connections for a full minute before you walk away. The parts cost less than $10 each, and you just prevented what could have been a $10,000 insurance claim. You'll thank me later for this one. Now, the seventh job we're going to cover is fixing a leaky P-trap. And I know this one sounds more advanced, but it really isn't. The P-trap is that curved section of pipe under your sink, shaped like the letter P or U, depending on how you look at it. It holds a small amount of water that blocks sewer gases from coming back up through your drain. When a P-trap leaks, it's almost always at one of the slip joint connections, those big plastic or chrome nuts that hold the sections together. Most of the time, you just need to tighten them. Put your bucket under there, hand tighten first, and if that doesn't stop the drip, use channel locks to snug them up just a bit more. If the washers inside those joints are cracked or compressed flat, you can buy replacement washers for about $1, or you can replace the entire P-trap assembly for under $10. The whole job takes 15 to 20 minutes. The trickiest part is just fitting yourself under the sink cabinet, and I'm the first to admit that's not getting any easier with age. But take your time on this one, and you'll have a dry cabinet floor by dinner. The eighth job on our list is replacing a sink drain and stopper assembly. This is one of those jobs where the result is immediately visible and satisfying. If you've got an old bathroom sink with a tarnished, corroded drain ring or a pop-up stopper that hasn't actually stopped anything in years, this fix makes the whole sink look and work like new. Start by removing the old drain. From underneath the sink, you'll see a large locking nut where the drain body passes through the sink basin. Loosen it with channel locks or a pair of pliers. Once that's free, the old drain lifts right out from the top. Clean the sink surface around the drain opening, removing any old putty or buildup. Roll a rope of fresh plumber's putty about the thickness of a pencil and press it around the underside of the new drain flange. Drop the new drain into the hole from the top. Go underneath and thread on the new locking nut and tighten it until the putty squishes out evenly around the edge. Wipe away the excess putty, connect the new pop-up assembly or drain stopper according to the instructions, and you're finished. The parts run about $15 to $30 depending on the finish, and you just gave your sink a facelift without calling anyone. The ninth job is one most homeowners have never heard of, and that's installing a dishwasher air gap, or high loop. Here's why this matters. Your dishwasher drains through a hose that connects to your garbage disposal or sink drain. Without a proper air gap, or high loop, dirty water from the sink can backflow into your dishwasher. That's contaminated water mixing with the machine that cleans your dishes. A lot of building codes require one or the other, and most homeowners have no idea whether theirs is set up correctly. An air gap is a small fitting that mounts on your sink or countertop, usually in that extra hole next to the faucet. The dishwasher drain hose connects to one side, and a second hose runs from the other side down to the disposal or drain. If your local code doesn't require an air gap, the simpler option is a high loop, where you secure the drain hose to the underside of the counter at the highest point possible using a hose clamp or bracket before it drops down to the disposal connection. This creates an air brake that prevents backflow by gravity. Either installation takes about 20 to 30 minutes and requires a screwdriver and a couple of hose clamps. It's one of those invisible improvements that protects your family's health, and once you know about it, you can't ignore it. The 10th and final job on our list is replacing an outdoor hose bib, also called a sillcock, and this is a big one for anybody who's ever had a pipe burst from freezing. That outdoor faucet where you hook up your garden hose takes a beating from weather, and when it fails, it can leak inside the wall where you can't see it until the damage is done. For most standard installations, replacing a hose bib is straightforward. Shut off the water supply to that line from inside the house. Open the outdoor faucet to drain it. From inside, usually in the basement or crawl space, You'll find the connection where the hose bib passes through the wall. If it's a threaded connection, you unscrew the old one and thread the new one on with Teflon tape on the threads. If it's an older home with a soldered copper connection, you'll need a torch and some basic soldering skills. Or you can cut the pipe and use a push-fit coupling to adapt to the new bib. A frost-free sillcock is what you want if you live anywhere that gets below freezing, because it has a long stem that shuts the water off inside the warm wall, rather than at the exterior. They cost between $15 and $40 depending on length, and the installation takes about an hour. If soldering is involved, and you're not comfortable with a torch, that's one situation where I'd say call a professional or learn soldering as a separate skill first. But for threaded connections, this is absolutely a DIY job. All right, now for the bonus tip I've been holding on to, and this one comes straight from experience. Before you start any plumbing job in your house, take 5 minutes and locate every shutoff valve that's relevant to that fixture. Test them. Turn them clockwise to close, then back open. If a valve is frozen, meaning it won't turn, or if it's weeping when you operate it, you now know that before you're standing in a puddle with a disconnected supply line and no way to stop the water. I learned this the hard way on a job back in my 20s when I cracked open a union fitting under a sink and the shutoff valve below wouldn't close. Water everywhere. Uncle Ray was on that job with me, and he didn't yell. He just looked at me and said, "You always check the valves first. Always." That stuck with me for 30 years, and now I'm passing it to you. While you're at it, make sure everyone in your household knows where the main water shutoff is for the whole house. That one valve can save you from a disaster if anything ever goes sideways. Test it once a year, make sure it turns, and put a tag on it so nobody has to guess in an emergency. That's how my Uncle Ray taught me, and that's how I'm teaching you. Before you go, if you got something out of this video, do me one last favor and hit that subscribe button. I put out new videos every week covering real-world plumbing repairs, money-saving tips, and the kind of know-how that takes years to pick up on the job. Subscribing costs you nothing, and it makes sure these videos show up in your feed when you need them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.